Ever wondered if an avoidant person can truly love? I'm Jim Rohn, and today we're diving into a question that keeps a lot of people up at night. Can someone with avoidant attachment truly fall in love? And if so, how would you even know? If you're in a relationship or situationship with someone who pulls away, just when things start to feel close, you're not alone. Maybe they go cold after a great weekend. Maybe they stop texting back when things get emotionally vulnerable. And you're left questioning everything. Is it fear? Is it rejection? Or is this how they love, quietly, cautiously, from a distance? Here's the truth. Most people don't talk about. Avoidant individuals can love deeply, but they express it differently. Their love often hides behind mixed signals, subtle gestures, and protective walls. And if you don't know what to look for, you might miss the signs completely. Or worse, keep chasing validation from someone who's already showing it in their own guarded way. But don't worry, I'm going to decode this for you. In this video, I'll walk you through the real signs an avoidant is falling in love. Not the fantasy signs, not wishful thinking, but the grounded, sometimes hard-to-spot ways they reveal emotional investment, like making space for you in their routine, letting down their guard, and showing up when it matters most. So if you've ever felt confused, exhausted, or like you're stuck reading emotional braille, you're in the right place. By the end of this video, you'll have the clarity to know what's real, what's not, and how to respond in a way that honors your self-worth. If you want more grounded guidance on emotionally unavailable dynamics and how to respond with strength and self-respect, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Your peace is worth protecting. Let's get into it. To really understand what it means when an avoidant person is falling in love, we have to start by looking at what avoidant attachment actually is. An avoidant attachment style isn't about being cold or heartless. It's rooted in early emotional experiences where closeness may have felt unsafe, overwhelming, or unpredictable. So as adults, people with this style often learn to depend on themselves, keep emotions tightly locked away, and avoid relying on others too much. On the surface, they may seem independent or even aloof. But beneath that surface, there's often a very different story, one shaped by a deep fear of emotional vulnerability. Avoidants aren't incapable of love. That's one of the biggest misunderstandings out there. People assume that because an avoidant pulls back when things get close, they don't feel anything at all. But the truth is, they often feel too much, so much that it threatens their sense of control. When emotions start to rise, so does their anxiety. Love activates old fears they haven't learned how to face. So instead of moving closer, like someone with a secure style, they pull away. They deactivate. They put up walls, not because they don't care, but because caring terrifies them. Now, that's not an excuse for hurtful behavior. Emotional unavailability can be damaging when you're on the receiving end, but understanding the why behind avoidant behavior helps you stop internalizing it. You stop asking, "What did I do wrong?" and start recognizing it for what it is: a nervous system on high alert trying to protect itself from intimacy. When an avoidant is falling in love, it rarely looks like the movies. There may not be grand declarations or daily "I miss you" texts. Instead, the signs are quiet, subtle, and sometimes confusing. They might start opening up about their past. They might remember small details about you, show up consistently, even if it's in small ways, and begin to include you in their routine. For someone who usually keeps others at arm's length, these shifts are significant. It means you're beginning to matter in a way that both excites and unsettles them. But here's the key: just because they're feeling love doesn't mean they know how to do love. Their fear of losing autonomy or being consumed in the relationship often clashes with their desire to connect. That's why they might pull away just after moments of closeness. It's not always a sign they've lost interest. It's often a reflex to regain emotional safety. So if you're with someone who's avoidant, you have to ask yourself, are they making any effort to stretch toward you, even if it's small? Are they slowly letting you into their inner world? If the answer is yes, then their love might be real, even if it looks different than what you're used to. So let's talk about what it actually looks like when someone with an avoidant attachment style starts to fall in love. Because again, it's probably not going to come in the form you expect. You're unlikely to hear constant I love yous or see sweeping gestures of romance, but that doesn't mean it isn't happening. You just have to know what to look for, how they love differently. One of the first signs is increased communication and emotional openness. Now, for an avoidant, opening up emotionally is not easy. It's like speaking a second language they never really learned growing up. Vulnerability feels risky. But when they start to feel something real and they begin to trust that the connection might be safe, they'll test the waters. You might notice they start sharing more about their past, their inner world, maybe even the fears they usually keep hidden. These aren't random admissions, they're significant. For them, opening that door even a crack is a big deal. It means they're starting to include you in their emotional life, and that's one of the clearest signs they're developing real feelings. Another sign to pay attention to is how they show care. Avoidants often express love through action rather than words. They might not say I love you often, but they'll fix your car, make sure you got home safe, bring you something they know you need, or help you solve a problem. These are what we call acts of service. It's their way of staying connected while still keeping some emotional distance. But if you're watching closely, you'll see the tenderness behind the practicality. These actions aren't just habits, they're their version of showing affection. You matter, and this is how they know how to show it. Then there's compromise. Avoidants value their space. They protect their independence fiercely, but when they start to fall in love, they'll begin to bend, even if just slightly. They'll start showing up more regularly. They might let you stay over more often or invite you into routines they used to keep separate. They'll make room for you even if it's uncomfortable for them. That willingness to be a little more flexible, a little more emotionally available, it's a big sign. Love is tugging at them, and though it goes against their usual instincts, they're choosing to meet you halfway. That effort to be present, to be consistent, even if imperfectly, that's real progress. Now, none of this means they're suddenly going to become fully secure overnight. Love doesn't erase attachment patterns, but what it can do is motivate growth. If an avoidant is truly falling for you, you'll see that effort even if it's slow and uneven. And as the person on the other side of that, it's not your job to pull them forward. It's your job to pay attention to whether they want to move forward with you at all. Love from an avoidant is quiet, steady, sometimes hesitant. But if you're seeing those signs, it's likely very real. One of the biggest challenges in loving someone with an avoidant attachment style is the emotional gap that often shows up early and can persist for quite some time. It's not that they don't have emotions. In fact, avoidants feel deeply. But they've learned often from a young age that expressing those emotions openly either wasn't safe, wasn't welcome, or simply didn't lead to connection. So they internalized a rule. Keep your feelings to yourself. Stay in control. Don't rely on anyone. And they carry that rule into adult relationships, whether they realize it or not. What this means in practical terms is that emotional intimacy can feel threatening. It asks something of them that they're not used to giving: exposure, vulnerability, softness. And when you get too close too fast, they may retreat, not because they want to hurt you, but because their nervous system interprets that closeness as danger. They go into protection mode. They might get distant, busy, critical, or simply shut down. This can be incredibly confusing and painful if you're someone who craves connection and openness. You might start questioning yourself or wondering why they're suddenly pulling away after things seem to be going well. This is where patience comes in. Not the kind that ignores your own needs or waits forever for change, but the kind that understands where they're starting from. You're not dealing with a bad person, you're dealing with someone who hasn't had a lot of practice with emotional closeness. That doesn't mean you lower your standards, it means you don't take their behavior personally. Their retreat is about them, not a reflection of your worth. And from that place, you can choose how you want to respond with boundaries and with empathy. If you want an avoidant person to feel safe enough to connect emotionally, you have to create an environment where they don't feel pressured, judged, or forced into vulnerability. That doesn't mean you suppress your needs, it means you communicate them clearly and calmly without turning it into a demand or an emotional test. You model emotional safety by staying grounded, by regulating your own nervous system, and by being consistent. Avoidants often feel safest when they sense that you are steady, even when they're not. But let's be clear, emotional safety isn't just about protecting their comfort. It's about creating mutual conditions where both of you can grow. If you're always the one giving, waiting, and making space while they stay frozen, that's not emotional safety, it's self-abandonment. True safety allows both people to show up. So as they slowly begin to take emotional risks, it's also your job to notice whether they're moving toward you or just orbiting you from a distance. Love can only grow if there's movement, however slow, toward mutual openness. The bottom line is this: an avoidance emotional wall isn't meant to push you away forever. It's there because somewhere deep down they learned connection wasn't safe. But with time, patience, and the right kind of relationship, one built on steadiness, not pressure, they can begin to let that wall come down. And that's where real intimacy begins. Now let's talk about what it actually takes to navigate a relationship with someone who has an avoidant attachment style without losing yourself in the process. It's a delicate balance. You're trying to build something meaningful with someone who by default keeps emotional distance. That doesn't mean it's impossible, but it does mean you need a very intentional strategy, one rooted in emotional clarity, personal boundaries, and secure communication. The first piece of this puzzle is building trust. And for an avoidant, trust isn't just about loyalty, it's about safety. Emotional safety. They're asking themselves, can I be close to this person and still breathe? Will they overwhelm me? Will I lose myself if I let them in? So your job, if you're choosing to be in this kind of relationship, is to show through your actions that you are steady, not intrusive, that you can be present without chasing, that you're emotionally available but not emotionally chaotic. That's the foundation. Because avoidants tend to open up not when they're pushed to, but when they're given space to choose closeness. Now that doesn't mean you suppress your emotional needs. In fact, if you do that, resentment will build. What you need is open, honest communication. Not blaming, not emotional pleading, just simple truth. Hey, I value closeness in a relationship. It's important for me to feel emotionally connected. When you pull away, I start to feel unsure of where we stand. Can we talk about that? That kind of communication creates clarity without pressure. You're not demanding they change, you're revealing who you are and what you need to feel secure. That matters. Because if you're constantly walking on eggshells trying not to scare them off, you're already abandoning yourself. At the same time, you have to respect their boundaries. And that can be tough when your instinct is to move closer. But pressing harder when they're withdrawing usually backfires. The more you push, the more they retreat. What works better is this: back off without shutting down. Create space without punishment. You can say something like, I sense you're needing a little space right now. That's okay. I'm here when you're ready to reconnect. That kind of message tells them two things: they're safe and you're stable. That's what earns trust with an avoidant, not ultimatums, but emotional consistency. The real key here is mutual growth. You're not trying to fix the avoidant or change their nature. You're inviting them into a healthier relational pattern, one where both people are seen, heard, and valued. And they may resist at first. That's normal. What matters is whether they respond over time. Are they leaning in at all? Are they learning to communicate better, even if clumsily? If the answer is yes, there may be something to build on. If not, you may need to ask yourself whether this connection is nourishing you or just draining you. Because at the end of the day, relationships shouldn't just be about holding space for someone else's wounds. They should also be places where you feel met, where your needs aren't just spoken but honored. It's easy to focus on the challenges of loving someone with an avoidant attachment style, because let's be honest, it is challenging. There's distance, there's confusion, there's a lot of emotional restraint that can feel cold if you're not looking beneath the surface. But if we only see avoidance through the lens of what they lack, emotional expression, intimacy, verbal reassurance, we miss the very real beauty of the way they do love. And when avoidants start to open up, what they offer can be incredibly steady, deep, and loyal in ways that are often overlooked. Avoidants are fiercely independent. That independence, while sometimes frustrating to a partner who craves closeness, is also a form of strength. These are people who don't love lightly. They don't enter relationships out of neediness or desperation. So when they choose to let someone in, when they allow another person to get close, that decision holds weight. It means they've thought it through. It means they've wrestled with their own discomfort. And it means that you matter to them more than you probably realize. One of the most beautiful traits of avoidant love is loyalty. When an avoidant truly commits, they tend to take that seriously. They may not say "I love you" every day, but they'll show up when it counts. They'll remember what you need, quietly anticipate your comfort, and stand by you in practical, tangible ways. Their love shows up in acts of service, protection, problem-solving, consistency. You might not get long emotional speeches, but you might find your tires are checked, your schedule is remembered, or your favorite snack appears in the kitchen without a word. These small gestures for them are love. What makes avoidant love different, what gives it its quiet power, is that it's often hard-won. It doesn't come easily to them. So when you see an avoidant try, when you see them stay instead of shut down, when you see them reach out instead of retreat, that's not just love, that's courage. It means they're moving against years of wiring, against deeply embedded fears of loss, engulfment, or disappointment. And every small step forward is a big deal. If you're in a relationship with an avoidant, or you've ever loved one, try to see the complexity of that love. It may not look like what you're used to. It may take a different shape, but that doesn't make it less real. In many ways, it's a kind of love that requires more bravery, more growth, more quiet resolve. And when that love is nurtured in a safe, respectful, and understanding relationship, it can grow into something deeply rooted, solid, resilient, and enduring. So don't just look at avoidant love through the lens of what's missing. Look at what it teaches. Look at how it stretches both people to grow. And if you're the one holding that love with care, know this: your steadiness, your patience, and your clear self-respect can help transform a guarded heart into one that learns to love fully and freely. And that is something truly beautiful. Loving someone with an avoidant attachment style isn't for the faint of heart, but it can be deeply meaningful when approached with clarity, patience, and strong boundaries. In this video, we've unpacked the inner world of avoidant individuals, how their past experiences shape their fear of closeness, how they express affection through actions more than words, and what it actually looks like when they're falling in love. We explored the subtle but significant signs of real love from an avoidant, the slow increase in emotional openness, the quiet loyalty shown through consistency and care, and the gradual compromises they make to include you in their world. We also talked about how emotional connection can feel overwhelming for them and what it takes to build trust without pressuring them to change overnight. That means communicating your needs clearly, respecting their emotional pace, and recognizing that love from an avoidant doesn't come fast, but when it does, it often comes with sincerity and depth. More importantly, we looked at the beauty of avoidant love, because while it may lack some of the emotional expressiveness you're used to, it brings a different kind of value, steadiness, reliability, and the profound meaning behind every small risk they take to get closer. And that's something worth recognizing and honoring. But let me be clear, none of this means you should tolerate emotional neglect or stay in a relationship that leaves you chronically anxious or unseen. Your needs matter just as much. Healthy love is always a two-way street. The goal is mutual emotional safety, not one-sided patience. A secure relationship means both people are growing, not just one doing all the emotional labor. If this video gave you a clearer understanding of avoidant love and how to navigate it with emotional maturity, I hope you'll subscribe to the channel for more grounded insights like this. Your support helps me continue to create honest, thoughtful content about real relationship dynamics. Leave a comment below. Tell me, have you ever loved someone with an avoidant attachment style? What signs helped you realize their love was real? Let's start a conversation that helps others feel less alone in this experience. Thank you for spending your time here with me today. Remember, clarity is kind. Your needs are valid, and love, real love, is worth doing the work for, as long as it honors both hearts involved. Until next time, stay steady, stay self-respecting, and take care.